Here we have the new 2023 Ford F-150 Lariat. It's no secret on this channel that I'm not the biggest fan of the new Toyota Tundra. We released a video not too long ago where we pretty much crapped all over it. So I embarked on an adventure to try and find the best possible pickup truck, and one of the options I landed on was, well, of course, the F-150. Ford sells more than 600,000 of these things a year, so they ought to be pretty damn good. But alas, that's what we want to find out. We want to determine if this thing is better than the new Toyota Tundra, if it's better than its competition, if it's any good at all, and if you should buy one yourself. Quick shout out before we get started. This Ford F-150 Lariat is on loan from Richmond Ford Lincoln in Richmond, Virginia. So if you are in the market and local to the area, feel free to stop there to test drive your new F-150. Let's start off with a walk around of the F-150. Now, looks are often a subjective thing and often polarizing depending on who you're talking to. And I am not actually the biggest fan of the F-150 Lariat's appearance, even though this one has the sports package, which gives you like a black grille, some better looking wheels, chrome exhaust tip, and a few other things. Ultimately, I kind of find this truck to be sort of like a good old boy's pickup. It's not exactly what I would call sporty or modern. Anyway, on the front of this F-150 Lariat, you have the tow hooks, which is something that Toyota decided to leave out on their new Tundra and something that most off-roaders really hated. And if you look here at the badge on the front, you'll see this little camera on the bottom. That's because this one is equipped with the 360-degree camera option that Ford offers on most of the F-150s. And it really is very nice. You get to see, of course, anything that comes from the front of the vehicle, the back. You get that nice sort of overhead view. Basically, it makes parking this thing an absolute dream. Now, if we pop the hood, we are greeted with Ford's monstrous V6 EcoBoost engine. Now, starting, I believe, with 2023, Ford does offer some of the F-150 models with a V8 again. However, this twin-turbo V6 is nothing to scoff at. It gets more than 400 horsepower, has incredible acceleration and torque, a fantastic towing capacity of, I believe, like 12,000 pounds, and ultimately will give you some fairly decent fuel economy as well. Around town, depending on the trim level of F-150 you get, you can expect anywhere between 17 to 22 miles per gallon. Now, I know a lot of people were very disappointed with the fact that Toyota went to a twin-turbo V6 and that Ford went over to a twin-turbo V6 and that Ram is adding in their mini hybrid engines, but the fact of the matter is that people are looking for better fuel economy and, for that matter, slightly better torque. And this is, well, one of the answers to that problem. Don't get me wrong, I think a V8 is one of the best sounding engines you can buy. However, there is something to be said about the twin-turbo V6. You do kind of get the best of all worlds. And of course, if you're in higher elevation areas, such as like Colorado or other mountainous towns, you will also find yourself having better towing capacity with the turbos than you would a conventional V8. But that said, it is nice that Ford gave you the option, considering that other manufacturers are not giving it to you. Ram still does offer a V8, however, they really are trying to push their V6 Pentastar engine, I think, on a lot of their new Ram products, and again has that little mini hybrid engine in there as well. But nevertheless, for those that are curious about how Ford's EcoBoost performs, I can honestly say not only is it very quick, but it drives a lot better than Toyota's new V6 twin-turbo Tundra. And the reason why is primarily, I think, is because Toyota just has some very weird algorithm when it comes to the acceleration and, for that matter, deceleration, whereas Ford just for some reason got it right. It just feels a little bit better when you're driving around town with it. But enough about this EcoBoost. Now let's go over some fun details on the side of the vehicle. All F-150s are equipped with this nice little side vent right here. That's sort of an earmark of the new Gen 14. And the thing is unlike other pickup trucks and other Toyota products like the 4Runner, the Tundra, the Tacoma, and any of the TRD Pro and Sport models that have the little hood scoop on it and they're fake, this one actually does ventilate out of the engine. And on the Tremor, which has a couple of vents on the top right here, unlike the new TRD Pro from the Tundra, those are also technically real. I don't know if they really do too much, but hey, they do in fact have an opening into the engine bay. But on the side here, you've got this nice sort of big mirror here, and it is fairly aerodynamic. You don't hear a whole lot of wind noise, but that could also be compliments of Ford's sound acoustic laminated glass. You have a nice little LED turn indicator here, and then of course some thick-ass running boards. Running boards are just something that Ford does right. They're wide, they're grippy, they're easy to access things on the roof with. They pretty much make the best running boards of any of the manufacturers. And on the Tremor and Raptor trims, they're even made out of this nice sort of like Line-X grippy texture, which is awesome if your boots or shoes are wet. Now, another notable design feature of the F-150 is this swooped window. Now, this is actually a design cue taken from Range Rover, but basically what Ford wanted to accomplish was a lower door sill so you'd be able to see sort of out of the cabin a little bit easier. It just gave you a little bit more visibility. And I have to say that it does actually work pretty well, especially if you're somebody that's going to be using this vehicle for like off-roading or going over rocks, stuff like that. It is kind of nice to be able to have a slightly more direct view of the front tire and then just the general ground beneath you. The F-150s are also equipped with Ford's infamous little keypad on the door here, which I frankly love. It's one of those things where I don't know how I've lived so long without it. I can just kind of leave my keys in the house, in the bag, in the office, whatever, and I can go out to the vehicle whenever I want and unlock it, lock it, do whatever I please. But I really, really dig this. Now, a lot of people have some complaints about this keypad, saying that it's a security issue because the keys that you use the most are going to be worn down and thus somebody's going to know how to get into your vehicle. But you know, it is still a 5-digit code to get in, and just because some of the keys might be worn down or oily or something like that, I really don't think that's going to indicate to somebody exactly the key combination and the sequence of keys that they need to use to get in the vehicle. So for those that think it's a safety concern, I wouldn't really worry about it too much. But I really, really love this. I wish that more manufacturers did it. On the mirror here, you'll also notice a little camera at the bottom, which is a part of Ford's little 360-degree view feature, and that's pretty cool. And then this camera is also equipped with a heated element as well as blind spot monitoring and a dimming feature on the driver's side only. So basically, when you're driving along at night and you've got bright lights in your rear view mirror, it will dim the driver's side only mirror. It used to be that cars had both the driver and passenger dim, but their manufacturers are now switching to that being a driver's side only thing, and I think that's to save money. And there was also an issue with the heated elements in Ford mirrors there for a while, but I think they've got that chip shortage sorted out now as well. So most F-150 trucks are coming with the heated mirrors. There is one more interesting thing about the side of the F-150, and that is the gas cap. Now, you'll notice that it doesn't actually have a cap that you have to take off. Basically, it has this easy fuel thing where you basically just stick the nozzle into here, and then you can start filling up. And while it is convenient, it does make for emergency situations to be a little more annoying. You basically have to pull out this Shiwi looking thing in order to be able to fill it up with a jerry can. And one last notable fact about the fuel on this F-150 is that even though it is a twin-turbo V6, you really only need 87 octanes. So that's kind of nice. Basically, you can save at the pump a little bit. Now let's talk about the back of the F-150. You'll notice up there on the rear brake light that it has a tiny little camera in the center of it. That is to allow you to have a camera view of the inside of your truck bed. That's something that the Tundras come with, and I absolutely love it. The problem is that not all F-150s come with it. Some of them have a delete line item on the window sticker, which basically gives you like $50 back or something like that, which gets rid of the little camera. And I think that's kind of a shame because, you know, again, they're doing that to save money for chip shortages and all this other stuff. However, I really, really do love the idea of being able to look in the truck bed when you're, like, let's say, moving things and you want to make sure that everything is staying safe and secure. But anyway, we have another camera right here, and then we have a very, very bright LED backup light. If you hit the little button here at the center, the tailgate drops down automatically. Now, some would say that that is potentially a reliability issue, and I would tend to agree. It is one of those things where even though it's very, very convenient and nice, and I've actually not heard a lot of people complain about that particular motor braking, and in fact you can also lift it up slightly and it will close for you. The fact of the matter is that in terms of longevity, that is something that could break. Having said that, let's say you own this thing for 15 years and that little servo motor is nowhere to be found on the market, you can still at least open this thing manually and close it manually as well. So you definitely don't have to have the motor in there. It's just something nice nice that it does, I guess. But anyway, that is something that most other manufacturers don't include, including Toyota. And again, I guess that is primarily for reliability purposes, but I wouldn't worry too much about that. Now, one thing I really love about how Ford does the tailgate is their little step-up ladder thing. Now, you do need the bed utility package in order to get this feature, but basically this little thing slides out. You've got this little handle that can come out, pop up as well, and now you basically have nice, easy access into the truck bed. And it's very easy to just pop this stuff down, and in it goes. That is something that Toyota makes you pay extra for, and frankly, it's kind of half-assed. There's just basically a little step that goes on the side of the truck bed, or of the tailgate rather, and then allows you access onto the side of it. But it's not implemented that smart, and it really does appear that Toyota made that an afterthought. But nevertheless, if you get the bed utility package, you do have this nice little cover with a ruler, as well as some bright LED lights peppered throughout the truck bed to give you some easy viewing access of the stuff that you have in your bed at nighttime. Now, one cool feature about the Ford F-150 is the ability to turn it into a generator. So basically, if you get the power pack add-on, it allows you to turn your little 400-watt plug in the truck bed into a 2,000-watt plug. And there's a little computer on the inside that tells you how much wattage you're using, and that's pretty neat too. But in any event, for those that are, live in maybe areas that have, like, let's say a lot of, thunderstorms, rain, power outages, that kind of thing, it's sort of nice to be able to rely on your truck as a generator. Effectively, you could power your refrigerator, maybe like a AC window unit and a couple of other things on there. And again, the computer will tell you how much draw you're actually using with the electricity. Other manufacturers are starting to try to do this. I think Chevrolet is doing it with some of their vehicles. The F-150 Lightning has it. But so it's not like it's something that Ford has exclusively. But that said, when you compare this to, like, let's say the Tundra, which only has a standard 400-watt outlet in the back, it is kind of a neat thing for Ford to give you that upgrade. That said, it's not all cotton candy and lollipops on the back of the F-150. One glaring omission is the lack of a bed liner. Now, while you do have to pay for it on the Tundra, it's like about an $895 line item, it is something that at least comes equipped on most of the Tundras, but it is not equipped on any of the F-150s. Now, you can very easily go to like a Line-X store and get one installed for about $550 is, I believe, what I paid for it on the Tremor, and that is cheaper than what Toyota offers it for from factory. But that said, it is one kind of like extra thing that you have to do. It would be nice if Ford at least had the option to have a from factory bed liner. And it doesn't just stop there. The rear wheel wells of the F-150 aren't lined either, including on the Tremor, and I think that that's a pretty glaring omission for an off-road vehicle. But this is a Lariat, which is a little bit more road design, but still, they should have at the very least put a liner in here. It didn't have to be something fancy like Line-X, but just something to kind of give it a little bit of paint protection, maybe a little bit of noise protection. You get the idea. That was maybe like, what, a $50 item that Ford decided to go cheap on? Come on, guys. Anyway, that said, those are two small, nitpicky things, but worth mentioning nevertheless. Now let's talk about the interior of the F-150 Lariat, because we have got a lot to unpack. The first thing I want to get into is the interior design, which is leaps and bounds better than the new Toyota Tundra. The fact remains is that the Toyota Tundra was thrown together by a bunch of people that just seemingly didn't really give a shit. But the F-150, you can really tell that people sat down in the design room and said to themselves, how can we lay out the best possible truck we can? Everything is kind of like in a logical location. It's intuitive. You've got some neat features. Cup holders are in the right places. You've got a wireless charging mat. You've got little doors that open the way that they should. The entire interior in here is not just made out of really good materials, which we'll get into in just a moment here, but overall just feels like a really nice place to be in. And that's a little bit of a polarizing thing, right? Some people feel like a truck should just be a truck, right? A truck should do truck things, and the interior doesn't matter because it's only going to get scraped and bruised by rocks and mulch and all that stuff anyway. But a lot of people do happen to use their trucks as a daily driver, so there's nothing wrong with needing maybe not necessarily luxuries or creature comforts, but just it being an inviting place, and Ford has managed to do a really good job at that. First and foremost, it is absolutely on par with the new Rams, and as far as the Toyota Tundra, it blows it out of the water. The plastics in the Ford F-150 just happen to be a little bit stronger, a little more firm, a little better put together, and a little bit more scratch resistant. If you look at the plastic panels, and there are a lot of them in the Toyota Tundra, if you look at them the wrong way, they'll just scratch. But the F-150 is made out of like a lot of nice hard plastics, but also a lot of nice soft materials material as well. One really cool material is this sort of like faux leather looking stuff that is soft to the touch and it's squishy, but it's also really easy to wash. So unlike real leather, it won't scratch as easy, won't get nicks and scrapes, but it will also clean up if you ever go like mudding or get some dirt and stuff on it. And given that this is the Lariat, and of course the Tremor has this too, as well as the Raptor, they all have their own little sort of like contrasted stitching. So this has like the brown faux leather interior with sort of like a bluish gray stitching. The Tremor of course has like that orange in there. So it's kind of neat that Ford kind of gave every little vehicle trim package its own kind of like theme, and that's kind of nice. But while the interior materials will hold up quite well, it's not all bulletproof and reliability in here. There is one weird thing that Ford chooses to do that I'm not so hot on, and that is the motorized gear shift. You see, Ford decided to put a motor inside of their gear shift instead of a manual lever like they do in the Toyota Tundra. For that matter, you also have the shift knob in the Dram, which again doesn't have a motor. It's just you step on the brake, a little kind of thing unlocks, and you can slide the knob back and forth to where you want to go. However, in the Ford F-150, there's a little motor in there which allows you to move the gear shift, unlock the gear shift and move it from drive to park, neutral, etc. and so forth, but then also for you to push a little button to recess it down so you can then turn it into a desk mode. Now, I can't help but feel like Ford could have made the gear shift a, manual gear shift like it is on the Tundra, and then just have like a little spring-loaded action in order to kind of like lay it down flat. And the reason for this is because ultimately that motor probably can and will break eventually, and I'm sure it's going to be a very proprietary and very expensive repair, not to mention the fact that, again, in 15 years from now, are you even going to be able to find that part? So yeah, Ford, if you're listening, maybe change the design of the gear shift a little bit. But that's a small nitpicky item, and I don't think that's a deal breaker by any means. The F-150 is of course also equipped with Ford's Sync 4 system. Now, Ford had a lot of issues with their Sync 1 and Sync version 2. They just weren't all that good, they weren't reliable, and they often had problems. However, Sync 4 has really upped their game. The screen is both big, responsive, it makes good use of the space, and overall it's very intuitive and enjoyable to use. And the same can be said for the digital dash that's in front of you. Now, the digital dash is of course only equipped on some of the more higher trim models, kind of like it is on the Toyota and the Rams, but as long as you have the high equipment group package, you get the digital dash on the F-150. And ultimately, it's a very, very nice interface. It's, again, pleasing to the eyes, gives you all the information that you need, nothing more, nothing less. It's pretty cool and pretty well designed with a couple of small omissions. And aside from the obvious technological advancements of the F-150 over the Tundra, one of the best possible ones is the lane keeping assistant. Now, Toyota has a similar feature called lane tracing assistant, but not only is it not that good and accurate, it's downright dangerous. In both Tundras that I owned and in a couple of loaners that I had, it was damn near swerving into trucks, cars, and out of lane and a whole bunch of other stuff. It was borderline unusable. Having said that, on the F-150, their lane keeping assistant is quite accurate. It is almost as good as self-driving. Now, if you get the high equipment group package, or I think you can also add it on separately, you can get something called Co-Pilot Ford 2.0, and that's got a few things in there, such as like automatic braking, the cruise control, some intersection stuff, as well as the lane keeping assistant. It does not include Blue Cruise, which for clarity's sake, Blue Cruise is an extra add-on that allows you to actually take your hands off the wheel on certain programmed highways. But their lane keeping assistant is basically almost as good. So ultimately, if you want to get on a main road or a highway and you basically just keep your kind of like finger sort of planted on the steering wheel a little bit with some light pressure, you can basically have the F-150 drive itself, and it works out pretty well. Another interior feature of the F-150 is that the pedals can move front and back. Basically, they can come a little bit closer and further depending on your driving style. Now, here's kind of a cool feature, the auto AC. Now, I don't know of any other vehicle that does this, but Ford has basically like 3 modes that you can do. So you've got like a high, medium, and low on the auto, and basically it just adjusts the fan speed. I think that's kind of cool if you want to have the AC going on auto mode, but you don't want it on full blast. That just allows you to keep it a little bit quieter. And that's not the only place where the F-150 is superior to its competition. The F-150s in the Lariat trim and above, I believe, come equipped with Ford's sound acoustic laminated glass. Basically what that means is it's some very, very thick, like double ply glass that makes the interior cabin almost silent. Now, you can get sound acoustic glass in the Toyota Tundra, but you have to, I think, on the Limited and Platinum, it's the front windshield, and then you have to upgrade to the capstone if you want it on the 4 doors as well. Whereas Ford basically puts it on most of their trims, and for that matter, it's also on their cars such as the Explorer, the Edge, and it makes a huge difference in terms of the interior noise in the cabin. It is so quiet in here you can practically fall asleep while driving. It blocks out all kinds of wind noise and road noise and just makes the interior space very zen and comfortable. And I can't understand why other manufacturers don't prioritize that, but Ford does, and they do an outstanding job. And one of the benefits of that sound acoustic glass is that you're able to hear your stereo system all the better. The F-150 in the higher class trims comes equipped with the B&O stereo system. Now, if you compare it to the JBL system from the Tundra, I'd say that they're probably on par, but it is absolutely superior to the Alpine system in the Rams. In fact, it is one of the best sound systems that I have heard in a car, much less a truck, in a very long time. And one thing I really love that Ford does is they make the speaker grills on it silver instead of matched black to the plastic, so it just makes it kind of look a little bit more premium and just kind of better than it does in the Tundra. In fact, the Tundra is so loaded with cheap plastics, even if you get the higher level trims, it just makes you feel like you're driving around in something kind of tinny and I don't know, you're not getting the bang for your buck. But no, the F-150 did a really nice job of sort of trimming things, accenting things, making big spacious, cup holders and door pockets and everything very usable and intuitive. Ford did an absolutely outstanding job with the interior design. And the cotton candy, ice cream, sandwiches, and unicorn feathers don't stop there. You have not only fantastic soundproof glass, as well as a great stereo system, you also have this fantastic dual panel sunroof. And that's not a unique feature to the F-150, but nevertheless, I really do love the dual panel sunroof. It is something that comes on the newer Rams, the newer Tundras, and all that stuff as an option, and it is fantastic. It just kind of makes the interior just sort of airy and kind of not a very pleasant place to be in, especially if you're cruising down the beach. Nevertheless, there's just some other cool things about the F-150 interior, such as the default black headliner, as well as the dual glove box storage. Basically, you've got some useful space at the top as well as the bottom. Toyota decided in the SR5 you'd have basically a little open cubby hole, but then in any trim package above the SR5 and the Tundra, they don't use the storage at all, which is kind of strange. But the F-150, the Ram, the Chevrolets, they all have an extra little cubby on top of the glove box for you to use, and that's a pretty nice touch. In terms of the rear seats in the F-150, it is also one of the best possible pickup trucks out there. You have a completely flat floor, unlike the Tundra, which has the little hump in the center, which God only knows why Toyota decided to do that. And if you have the high group packages, you also have things like heated seats or even cooled seats. And then overall, you just have a lot of nice little cup holders and storage and just little kind of nice things in terms of what the rear passengers can get. There's plenty of under the seat storage as well. You've got a lot of headroom. It's spacious. It just feels nice. It's not cramped at all. You could definitely take a long road trip as a passenger in this truck. Let's go for a little drive in our F-150, shall we? Now, there is one thing I really do love about the Tundra, and that is that it drives like a sports car. The fact is that the Tundra is a very light, very nimble pickup truck, full-size pickup truck to be specific. The F-150 is much more truck-like. And even this F-150 Lariat, which is not equipped with any kind of severe off-road suspension, sort of lumbers along the road more so than is glued to it. I don't know, it's not to say that it is a bad ride quality, because it absolutely isn't. The steering is pretty responsive, does feel pretty planted, and especially when you pop it into sport mode, it's quick and it takes corners pretty damn fast. That said, I can't reiterate enough that the drive quality is super, super quiet and super, super smooth. Going over speed bumps and rough areas in the F-150 is quite a bit more comfortable than it is in the Tundra. Some other little fun features about the F-150 is its automatic four-wheel drive system. Now, that's something that pretty much every manufacturer does except for Toyota. And I really like it because when you're in like a rainy or slick spot, basically the four-wheel drive system can kick in and you can feel a little more planted on the road. But for whatever reason, even though Toyota, who makes the 4Runner, which has an all-time four-wheel drive system, they don't do that in the Tundra. Basically, and I know this video is starting to become like a crap on the Tundra video, but I just want to compare the feature set of the F-150 to the Tundra primarily. And the Tundra, again, not only does it not have an automatic four-wheel drive system where basically all four wheels can be running at the same time, but there's also some curiosities with the rear diff locker as well. So there you have it. For those that are looking for better off-road capabilities, including a better approach angle, the F-150 seems to do better than the Tundra does, including the TRD Pro. There's something about Ford's reputation that's always kind of been like good old country boy, right? But I think Ford is trying to modernize themselves a little bit. I think they want to be more of the people's truck. And sure, you have to get into the higher trim levels if you want the really good looks and all of the nice features, but that's said about pretty much all of the pickup trucks these days. And let's be honest, the Lariat is not a badly priced truck. You could probably grab one of these things for about 50,000 bucks, which in today's market is a steal. And of course, colloquially speaking, Ford stands for found on road dead. But Ford sells 600,000 units, and very few Ford customers seem to have complaints about the Ford F-150. I'd argue that by sheer volume, the amount that they sell, if they have, let's say 10% of F-150s have a problem, and you compare that to 10% of Tundras having a problem, that is a significantly larger margin of cars and of course people to complain about it. But Ford's motto is built tough, and I would say that for all accounts it is. There are a few curiosities that I would say could question its long-term reliability, but nothing that can't be resolved, I think, fairly easily. I think if you buy the F-150, you're going to be very happy with it. I know that I am. There is one fun little Easter egg, by the way, with the 2023 model F-150s, and that is the 75th year insignia. Basically, in order to celebrate, I guess, 75 years of operation, Ford is peppering this little 75th year anniversary thing among a couple places on the interior and exterior. And I don't know, I'm not really sure it's going to like bump up the value of your vehicle at all, but it's still kind of a fun thing that Ford's doing. The F-150 is a fantastic truck, but it's not perfect. There are some small nitpicky items. I do wish that the rear glass recessed instead of just having the little square panel slide back and forth. I also wish that you have keyless entry on most of the F-150s, where you can keep the fob in your pocket and just put your hand on the door and it opens right up. That is available on the driver and passenger doors, but on the rear doors, it's not. So basically you have to like touch the front door first and then open up the rear door. I do wish more manufacturers put the touchless keyless entry on the rear doors as well. There's also a couple of curiosities, such as like walking away and the car not auto-locking. That's not a feature on the Ford, where it is on the Honda and Chevrolets and I think the GMCs as well. But basically, like what happens is if you forget to like lock the door, it will automatically lock for you. And Ford has the technology baked into the F-150 to be able to accommodate that. They just choose not to make it an option for some reason. But overall, the F-150 is an absolutely phenomenal pickup truck, and I think that if you buy one, you will absolutely love it. I know that I do. I had multiple Tundras and also test drove a bunch of Rams, and while I do really, really love the Ram, I'm a huge fan of the F-150 platform. Now, Ford's motto is built Ford tough, and I'm hoping that that's the case. Ford obviously doesn't have the reputation that Toyota does, where this thing is going to last for 400,000 miles and 20 years later where you can pass it off to your children's children's children. No, that's not really the Ford thing. However, there's a lot said about this truck, and I do think that it's going to last a long time and be reliable. I would take this over the new Tundra any day of the week. As for would I take it over a Ram? Well, I really do like the Ram. However, I was able to find more of what I wanted in this Ford rather than in the Ram. So yeah, Ram is great, but this Ford just to me is a little bit better. And of course, some of that is also based on subjective looks and stuff like that too. Anyway, that is our review of the Ford F-150. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us in the comments section. Please like and subscribe, and we will be back with another video really soon.